Hello and welcome to our new video. So as I told you in the previous video that in this video we will talk about CPU registers. Okay. So the first question that will arise in your mind is what are these registers actually? So these registers are actually flip-flop latch. Flip-flop latch. If you have learned digital electronics, you will obviously know what are the flip-flop latch. Okay, they are very fast memory storage unit and they are stored inside a processor, and the characteristic of that is that they are very small storage units. Okay, so you cannot store a very large amount of data in CPU registers. That's why we need a separate main memory. Okay, so they are very small storage locations. Okay, now first of all, why do we need them? Right, see what CPU actually do. CPU actually execute programs. Suppose it want to add two numbers. Suppose I say 10 plus 20 is equal to 30. CPU need to remember what they are actually adding. Means they need to store this 10 and 20 somewhere inside. After then only they can do the addition operation inside ALU. This is very common sense, right? So to store this number 10 and 20, we need some storage locations. What are those storage locations? These storage locations are nothing but CPU registers. Fine? Okay. Now, inside CPU, we have different kinds of CPU registers. Okay. They have different purposes and we will learn them today. The first and the most common CPU registers is obviously general purpose register. What are these general purpose registers? As you from the name itself you can take a guess if you don't know this. General purpose, what it means? That these registers can be used to store anything, any general data. Suppose you want to add two number. Okay, so suppose you have decided that A is 10 and B is 50. Fine. Now there are many kind of general purpose register inside a CPU. So you store this in a register, suppose HL and BL. Okay, now what you will have to do, you have to just say that add HL comma BL. In this way you can just add these two numbers. So whatever addition, whatever operation that you are doing inside CPU, they are basically somewhere stored inside some general purpose registers. Whatever the operations you are doing. Okay, whatever the operands that you are actually accessing, they are inside some general purpose registers. Now fine enough. So what we can write about general purpose register? We can write that they can store any general data. That can be some operand, like in our case it was A and B, the two numbers. That can be some input. Of course A and B were input. That can be some output as well. So you store the sum to any general purpose register. That is also possible. Okay, this is the things that are general purpose register mostly used. Okay, fine. Now we have a very special kind of registers. So the first and the most important, one of the most important special purpose register is accumulator. So to understand accumulator better, let me tell you something. Accumulator is a special kind of register that is used to store the output of an operation, sometime input as well. Now suppose, let us take an example. Suppose this square rectangle box represent the ALU. Okay, you know that inside ALU we do arithmetic and logical operations, right? Okay, Now you have feeded some inputs inside ALU. Okay. Now the output of ALU will be storing where? It will be stored inside accumulator. So inside accumulator, the output of the ALU will be stored. If you have not mentioned anything, then only the output of the ALU will be stored in accumulator. If you have mentioned any register name, then that output will be first coming to a accumulator and then to that general purpose register that I told you earlier. But if you haven't mentioned, then by default in the different architectural design, this output is stored in accumulator. Now sometime it may also happen that in few architectures we use accumulator as one of the inputs. One of the inputs means like this. Suppose you provide one input from outside, from anywhere, from any general purpose register, from any memory location, you provide one input. And the other input will be coming from the accumulator itself. How? Suppose previously the accumulator had value something. Okay. Suppose it was storing the value 10. Now this 10 will be used as one of the input for this new operation. Suppose you have provided 20, so 20 plus 10 will be 30 as output. So this is how our accumulator help to store the result of the operations. The next special purpose register is program counter. Okay, this program counter actually stores the address of what? Address of next instruction to be executed. Now you know that a program is consists of several instructions, right? Suppose you have a program which is consisting of 10 instructions. It is like that, suppose. Okay. Now the first instruction 1 is having some address, let's say 200. The second, let's say 204, and up to somewhere else. Okay, no problem. Now what this program counter will do, it will always automatically locate to the next instruction that needs to be executed. Suppose you are actually now currently executing instruction 1. So currently inside CPU you are in the execution stage and you are executing the instruction 1. Okay. Now after that instruction 2 must be executed. Okay, fine. So how CPU will know where the instruction 2 is located, or how it will get the instruction data, or what the actual instruction binary from where? The program counter will inform the CPU about the next instruction address. So earlier when the 200 locations instruction was needed to be executed, so program counter was locating 200. Now after instruction 1 execution is finished, program counter will be updated and the new updated value will be stored in program counter. So currently 2004 is inside program counter. So program counter will inform the CPU, okay, so 2004 instruction I need to fetch. So 2004 instruction, means I am talking about the address actually. The instruction that is located inside 2004 will be fetched now. So this is the work of a program counter. Now a special case may arise like that. Suppose you have definitely done C programming. So in C programming, if you have mentioned like this, if A is greater than C, then do this, else do this, if you have done like this programming. Now when ALU checks that A greater than C and suppose it is true, then this kind of if conditions are like jump condition. Jump condition means suppose you are currently in the, suppose the instruction previous to if condition was 200. Okay, now after giving this if condition, if it is found to be true, let's say the instruction that need to be executed is located in 212. Okay, now suppose 212 will be here somewhere. So what happened, this PC will automatically get updated if this instruction, means if this check found to be true. So PC will now contain 212 and the program will be jumped from 200 to 212. So 204 and these instructions are not now executed. So they will be executed later, but now 212 instruction will be executed. Okay. Next comes the instruction register. As the name suggests, this instruction register is used to contain instructions. Simple, it is as simple as that. We'll take the previous example. Suppose you need to execute the instruction which is located in the address 200. Now program counter has informed the CPU that go to the location 200 and fetch the new instruction. Okay, so this new instruction is now fetched. Okay, fine. So inside CPU I have fetched the 200 instruction, but imagine where this 200 instruction will go, means where the instruction inside 200. Suppose inside 200 I have given an instruction for addition, so inside CPU it has to go somewhere. Where it will go? It will eventually go inside this instruction register. So inside instruction register the new instructions keep coming. Of course, while coming to the instruction register, it comes somewhere else also. I will tell you after some while, you will know that what is that register, but eventually every instruction has to come inside instruction register. Okay, so every processor has instruction register to contain the instructions, and this after, suppose you want to add two numbers, so from instruction register it will be decoded and it will be finally get to ALU. This is like that. Okay, so you got the idea what instruction register is. Fine enough. Now next comes stack register, a stack pointer actually. If you haven't learned programming, you may not have heard about this stack word. No problem. Consider this as your main memory. Okay. Stack is nothing but a memory region. Means inside main memory there will be a region fixed. There will be a region fixed for stack operations. Stack is actually a location space reserved for some operations. It is fine enough to know as much at that point of time. Now this stack actually looks like this. Inside stack there are many locations as well, so there are many divisions, you can say. So inside stack, suppose you have two divisions, suppose okay, suppose inside in the here you have located A as 10 and here you have located B as 20. Suppose inside stack memory you have pushed this element. You will learn about stack architecture. I will tell you about that in the upcoming lectures. So as of now, just believe what I am saying, that inside stack you have just put this value A equal to 10 and B equal to 20. You have the technical word to say it is push actually. Anyway, so what this stack pointer will do, this stack pointer will always keep pointing to the uppermost element. So now the stack pointer is pointing to B20. Because I have only two elements and B is the last element it has entered, and it will be always located inside top. Suppose you want to extend this stack. What you will do? You will bring new element. Suppose you have now brought 30. Now this stack pointer will be no longer here. Stack pointer will automatically update itself and it will point to the uppermost element as 30. So this stack pointer register always keep track of the uppermost element inside the stack. And this stack pointer informs CPU, okay, so you want to access stack, I have this stack pointer and I am locating the stack. And interestingly, you may say that what about these elements? They are lost because I am actually locating only that uppermost topmost element. What are they? Now interestingly, this stack is a contiguous memory. If you are locating the uppermost or topmost element, the below element can be automatically accessed if you pop this element. If you pop this element means if you delete this element, then stack pointer will come down and locate to this B. So I will explain about stack based architecture in the upcoming video. So no problem, if you have understood that much, that is fine. Okay. Now comes the flag register. This is a special kind of register, flag register, or it is also called as program status word. These registers are very specific, means that in some processor they will have that much of stack register, in some processor they will have different numbers of stack register. Anyway, I am taking a general approach. So generally flag registers are used to indicate some special conditions. What is meant by that? Suppose you want to check if A greater than C. Suppose now you have written the program if A greater than C. How will CPU know if A is greater than C or not? How will CPU know if A is greater than C? CPU will do A minus C. Now if it finds that A minus C, the number is of positive sign, then obviously A is greater than C. If it finds A minus C as a negative sign, obviously C is greater than A. That means this condition is false. So if A minus C is greater than 0 or positive, the flag register, which is actually a collection of many bits, special bits. Suppose generally the flag register is of 8 bits. Okay. Anyway, suppose inside the flag register we have a sign bit. So if A minus C is positive, this sign bit will be 1. If A minus C is negative, this sign bit would be 0. It is like that. Suppose in some cases it may also happen that when you are adding two numbers A plus B, and suppose the result is C, and there may be an overflow. What do you mean by overflow? Suppose you are adding 4-bit number. Okay. If you know binary addition, then that would be very easy for you to understand. So 1 plus 1 would be 0, carry 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 1, carry 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is carry 1. And this would be the result. See, it is a 4-bit number. We are adding to 4-bit number. And we are getting a 5-bit number. So this carry, final carry, end carry is like an overflow condition. So you have added 4-bit number to 4-bit number, but actually you got 5-bit number. If the register that you are using for storing the sum can contain a 5-bit number, then that is okay, no problem. But suppose it cannot contain 5-bit number, then there will be an overflow condition, and that overflow condition will be maintained or will be checked by this flag register. Means the inside flag register we have an overflow bit that would be set to 1. So there are such kind of flag bits inside CPU. So there is a carry bit carry flag also. Suppose this is a carry also, so carry flag will be 1. There is a parity flag which we use lot in networking. Okay, there is a auxiliary carry as well, auxiliary carry, and many kinds of different kinds of flag register. So some you may find it while learning a specific architecture that there are lots of carry flags. So it depends a lot. So processor to processor it varies a lot. So different processor for different architectural requirement, we can have different kind of flag registers. Okay, fine. Now let us come to the two most important, MAR and MDR. Memory address register and memory buffer register or memory data register. So what is MAR or memory address register? Let us come back to the previous story. So suppose you have written a program and it has many instructions. So suppose it's at instruction 1, instruction 2 and up to instruction n. Okay, no problem, fine. Now this instruction will have some address inside main memory, fine. Now sometime what happens that this program counter, I told you now what this program counter does, it actually locates to the next instruction that needs to be executed by the CPU. Now program counter is not directly attached to the address bus. Why? See, bus is a wire, actually a pathway for connection. Whenever you just put the data or at the address inside bus, there is nothing to do. The address will flow and it will reach to the memory module or main memory. Sometimes we need a buffer to temporarily hold that address. Okay, we may not always require that address to be fed just immediately. So for that purpose, inside in between that address bus and program counter, we always keep a buffer which is memory address register. So PC will not directly give this address of the next instruction to the address bus. It will just simply forward that to the MAR, and that MAR will forward that again to the address bus, and it will go and reach to the main memory. So you can say that this address bus works as a buffer. Buffer means to temporarily hold that data, hold that address. Okay, so this memory address register will decide when to give the address and when not to. Okay, so situation, according to situation, that would be happening. So what is memory address register work? If you just, it actually stores the address of instructions. Okay, and operand as well. Why operand? Because sometime we need to bring the value of A10 from some main memory location. Suppose in main memory address 1010, A is located and A value is 10. Suppose CPU need to fetch that data. So what will happen? Program counter is meant to locate the to contain the instructions address, not this operand address. So MAR is also responsible for forwarding the addresses of operands as well. So in that case, memory address register will take the request from CPU that I need to feed this 1010 address to address bus, and that would be also done through MAR. Okay, fine. Now next comes memory data register. It is also called memory buffer register. The same and one and the same thing, just different names anyway. So suppose you want to, let us take an example to understand this better. Suppose you have fetched the instruction from main memory. Suppose instruction 1 you have fetched. So instruction 1 is coming through what bus? I told you, through data bus. Yes. So instruction 1 will be coming from data bus. Now inside CPU, where it will go? This will not directly go to the instruction register. I was telling you in the some while ago that instruction register contains instruction. Yes, I told you that in mediator there are some other register as well. So if we have a instruction or if we have a data, whatever, it will come to MDR first. So MDR will locate that data of that instruction, means the binary of that instruction. Okay. And from that MDR, it will go to IR or instruction register. Fine. Now, suppose you are not fetching any instruction, you are fetching an operand. So operand also come through data bus itself. So from the data bus, you are taking that operand to MDR, and from MDR, it can directly go to ALU. So it is like this. Okay. So that is why we have an intermediate MDR, because if everything used to come to IR, then no purpose, because its sole purpose is to keep instruction. So if it is an instruction, MDR will forward this to IR, otherwise it will forward to ALU. It is that simple. Now, so what is the purpose of memory data register? To hold the content of data bus, simply speaking, content of data bus. So to learn the whole procedure in a single example, I have drawn this. So inside main memory, let us assume that we have some memory blocks. Okay, fine. Now I have told you different kind of CPU register, right? So tell me what will be here. Yes, here we will have MAR. Fine. Here we will have program counter, and program counter will be giving addresses to MAR, and MAR will give those addresses to address bus, and that would be finally coming to the main memory. From main memory, the data bus is directly linked to which register? To MDR register. Yes. Through MDR we will, and inside we will have one ALU and we will have one IR. Forget about the flag register as of now. That is a special kind of register. So let us understand read-write operation from this example. Suppose you want to read the value of A. Suppose value of A is located here as 100. Okay. So you want to read. What will happen? The CPU will give the address of A to MAR. So MAR now keeps what value? MAR now keeps the value. Suppose it is located in 1000 location. So MAR now is keeping the value 1000. Okay, because you want to read the value of A. Now 1000 has come to data bus, and it is going to the main memory. And from main memory you have located A equal to 100, and that A equal to 100 means the 100 value will come through data bus, and finally it will reach to MDR. And from MDR it can go wherever you want. Suppose you are doing any calculations, arithmetic calculation or logical calculation, it may come to the ALU. It is like that. Now if you want to write something, suppose you want to, in some location you want to save the value of A equal to 10, suppose in some memory locations. So already I am having A equal to 100, so it must be changed, right? So suppose A is equal to 10 is a output of ALU. After some arithmetic operation you have got A equal to 10. Now ALU will give this to MDR, A equal to 10. Now if you directly give this to MDR, then how the main memory will know where to keep that value 10? Because I need to have the address. So MAR was containing 1000 previously. So now If the location is same, because I am updating in the same location, just after the write operation, I do not need to change the MAR value. Suppose I want to update it, or I want to keep the value to a different location, the MAR needs to be updated. Okay, it is like that. So if you are doing read write operation in the same thing, then no question of updating the MAR. So 10 will come to the data bus, and from that data bus it will be get updated, and main memory will update the value 10. So this thing is very simple enough, right? Okay. So you may ask how this main memory will judge if I want to read or if I want to write, because main memory is getting address and data. Now is it for write operation or is it for read operation? How will know? This will be known by giving some control signals. So as I told you, that control unit is responsible for control signal, issuing control signal. So control unit will, after the MAR is get updated, control unit will issue control signal. If it is a read operation, it will send read signals. So read will be enabled. If it wants to write something, so it will enable the write signals. So from these control signals, this main memory will know what to do, whether to read or whether to write. Again, if you want to bring some new instructions, suppose you have a program and you have several instructions. Now you are inside, you are actually executing 1001. So PC was containing 1001 instruction. Now the next instruction is 1002. So PC will get incremented by PC plus 1. Fine. Now this next the 1001 will go to MAR. From that MAR, this will go to main memory. Suppose this is a fetch instruction, that means it is actually a read instruction. So this control unit will issue read signals. So read signal will come to the main memory, and from that main memory will collect the data, and it will just issue it to the data bus, and data bus will carry that data and it will reach to MDR. From that MDR, as it is an instruction, so it will reach to the IR, and it will be then decoded as well. So this is how the read, write and instruction fetching operation is done through this kind registers. So I hope that up to this much you have understood how these basic operations are done inside a computer. Thank you very much for watching. So in the next lecture, we will discuss a different type of architecture. Some are stack based architecture, some are register based architecture, some are register memory architecture, and some are complex architecture. And then we will start addressing modes. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.